Hey, this is Jim, and we're looking today at Populo Scout. Well, initially I was going to look at the Populo Scout until I found out recently that Populo is no longer selling the Scout. So today I'm going to focus on the motor and the battery, which is used in a number of different bikes that I'll list on the screen, including ones from Voltbike, M2S, and also, what's the third one? I'll put it on there. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. So let me go through a couple of the features on the Populo that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm also going to go through some range tests on this combination. And I also tried to do some acceleration tests, but since this bike doesn't have a throttle, that was tough to do. So let's go over here and I'll point you out to some of the features. Cool. Alright, so here the Populo Scout, we got a 36 volt 13 amp hour battery, which gets you 468 watt hours of power. You come down here, this is a Bafang Max drive mid-drive system, which is 350 watt nominal, 750 watt peak output. And this one's going through a 38 tooth chainring to an 11 by 32 8-speed rear cassette. So to give you an idea of what it's working with, this in addition to the power output I just said, it has 80 newton meters of torque output. So it's all in all a pretty good system with the 36 volt, which I was a little skeptical of initially, but the range estimates, as you'll see in the range tests, are not really exaggerated by Populo, so that bodes well in my mind for the Bafang Max drive system, regardless of what type of battery setup you have with it. So we're going to go through the range on this particular setup. I'll go through the details on the motor and battery and some acceleration tests and just give you my opinions on how it works. Thanks a lot. Alright, we're going through the range tests here. I just want to mention that even though this says range test number 1, I actually did one range test that I didn't figure into the averages, where I covered 22.4 miles. I wasn't too sure if the battery was all the way charged, and I had a significant headwind between 16 and 20 miles per hour for most of the ride. The one we're looking at here is a range test where I covered, well, you'll see at the end here, 27.5 miles, it looks like. Temperature was between 73 and 81 degrees with very light winds, 2 to 4 miles per hour, and it was in a direction that didn't affect the range test at all. Additionally, the motor temperature was 88.2 degrees and the battery was at 114 degrees at the end of the test. A little bit hotter than I expected on the battery. This portion of the video you're watching right now is a pretty good hill within a ride here, and you can see that in assess level 5 it still gets up a hill pretty quickly. Alright, next we're in this next range test. I had to break it up into multiple legs, and that's why the distance and average speed on the display are not accurate. I covered, well, you'll see the miles inch here. I went from, it was 84 to 74, down to 74 degrees during this test. And also pretty light winds, 10 to 13 miles per hour, but it was coming from the south, so, and this was east to west in this ride, so it didn't affect the range at all. And this is a ride with my fast-moving special lady friend up there. I did also want to note that during this test I was in assist level 1 and 2. So I stopped, as you'll see at the end of at the range test here, I stopped the test at a little over 31 miles, and I still had 8 bars of battery remaining. Here's the third range test. This one was between 60 degrees and 83 degrees. I broke this up into 2 legs, morning and afternoon. Again, that's why the distance and average speed on the display are not accurate. It was the wind was between 8 and 10 miles per hour, so there was a little bit of wind on this one, but it didn't seem like it affected it too much. And this one was in the highest assist level 5 during the whole time. The motor temperature was 109 degrees and the battery temperature 94 degrees at the end of this test. It seems like on the longer tests you do get a little elevated battery and motor temperature, but I would say it's not too bad. Alright, that's the end of that test. We got 26.1 miles, and it's on 1 bar when it started cutting out. Got the final range test here. This is an assist level 3. Wind was between 8 and 11 miles per hour. Not terrible. 60 to 78 degrees. Again, this is one that's broken up in the morning and evening, to and from work. And that's why the display average speed and distance are not accurate. The program wasn't stitching together the GPS data correctly. Had a motor temperature of 93.6 and a battery temperature of 86.4 at the end of the test. And one thing you'll notice is the average speeds when you drop from assist level 5 down to these other assist levels drop by 2 to 4 miles per hour. So the average speed does drop quite a bit. And to be honest, the riding experience is just not nearly as good when you're in these lower assist levels. I hope you enjoyed the range tests. Enjoy some of the nice scenery around here. Just going to go a quick couple things about them beyond the details I listed in there. So my average range in the highest assist level for the bike was 26.8 miles, which is, I mean, it's almost spot on what Populo said. So I think it speaks well for this battery, the Bafang Max drive system, with a 36 volt 13 amp hour battery. So it gives you, honestly, of the electric bikes I've ridden, that's the best range, especially per watt hour. So it does really well. Some of the other things to note, I did a test, as you see in the videos of course, but I did a test in level 1, 2. I use the analogy in level 1 of like trying to drag race in a milk truck. It barely, I don't even think level 1 and 2 really even cancel out the extra weight of the electric bike. They really don't. They just don't give enough assist. But at the end, I stopped the test at a little over 31 miles, just because honestly I was getting tired. But I still had 8 bars of battery remaining. If that's a true 80%, that's to be debated. My other 2 tests, when I ran it down completely, I had between 1 and 2 bars left. So you probably still have, I mean, a lot of battery remaining. And then the same goes for the test where I did the whole test at SIS level 3. I had, what did I have here? I had 5 bars remaining, so I basically had half the battery left at a little over 31 miles. So, and you know, that's okay. The average speed was a lot lower. I had an average speed of about 14 miles per hour. It didn't feel like it was that fast, honestly. So it was, you know, if you really want to eke out the maximum range, I would say go with level 3, because then you still get some speed associated with it. But if I was to do it, you know, you can program a lot of these. If you have the programming cord, you can change the programming. And what I would do is I would basically have 3 or 4, or maybe something in between them, be like 1. And I think FLX, with their bikes, they have a lot higher top speed. I think it's a tweak within the programming of the system. It's also got basically the same battery as the Populo here has, and you're getting more performance. So I would tweak, and I would probably set that range. I'd probably go honestly between 4 and 5 and spread that out into 5 increments, because you get the 5 assist levels with this controller. But I'm really impressed with the system. Like, it's smooth, it's quiet. And the only negative I've had is that you know, it's really sensitive. So if you're in too high of a assist mode around a place, like especially if you're in town or, you know, kind of in a commuting situation, sometimes it can actually react a little too fast. And because this doesn't have motor inhibitors, you can't like hold on the brake, and you know, there's some things to this particular bike that I would do different. The Bafang Max, I'd like to see these motor cutoffs. It'd be cool to have a throttle. But in general, the system is good. I mean, it does what I mean, and another note too is I stopped these range tests. It's a little bit hard to explain. I know I've heard some other people call it cogging, but as you're pedaling and you start running out of battery power with this system, you end up, you hear, you know, the power is delivered quite smoothly, but then it kind of like hesitates a little bit. And when it did that more than once and a little bit more frequently, that's when I stopped the test, because to me that's effectively when you're running out of consistent power. You know, you could probably eke out another maybe mile in the high, but I would probably, once I hit that, if I was commuting, once I hit that situation when it started giving out a little bit or losing assist power, I'd probably drop down to level 3 or 2, and so I'd have some assist to make the rest of the way home. Because this bike, you know, comes in, as I tested it, over 60 pounds for the rack, but just stock is 57 pounds, so it's a beefy bike. So anyway, I hope my go through on the Bafang system helps kind of know what to expect from some of these other manufacturers that use the same system and a very similar battery, in some cases a little bit bigger battery. So you'd expect a little more performance, possibly a little more top speed, a little more range. I've had ridden a number of mid-drive bikes. I had a Bafang BBS02 that I put on a bunch of different bikes. I swapped it around on about every frame I can think of. And this is a lot more efficient, and you get a lot more out of the battery. That one I had a 52 volt 13 amp hour battery from Luna Cycles, and this one has a higher range. I get more range out of this one, this 36 volt battery. Just one note on a lot of these direct order companies. So this is a pretty generic Chinese frame. So really, I think the motor and the gist of these bikes is the motor and the battery, because the rest of it's pretty generic. And with an electric bike, it doesn't matter quite as much if it fits you perfectly. I've had a bunch of bikes through Bikes Direct, which is sort of the same kind of frame concept as a lot of these not lower end, more budget oriented electric bikes. Alright, I'm going to try to give you an idea for how the power works on this thing. Let's see. Alright, this is first gear. just starts to come alive a little bit. Fort Worth, you definitely start to sink into that its way. Fifth, we get a pretty nice boost. You can see it's a pretty stable, even at speeds I'm going no hands right now. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how I feel like to ride this thing. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. Yeah, hopefully this helps out with some decisions. Unfortunately, like I said before, this bike is not being made anymore. It has some quirks on the bike itself, so maybe that's for the best. But anyway, till next time, keep riding, keep doing it. Take it easy. Catch the wave, feel the flow.